Hello everybody, welcome to the first Pabau 2 Q&A webinar. My name's Oliver and I'm the marketing manager here at Pabau. I have with me William. William is the CEO and founder of Pabau. So William is the main architect of both Pabau Classic and our upcoming new product Pabau 2. So I'm sure he'll be able to answer any questions anyone have. So please feel free to fire some questions our way via the chat now. But if I could ask that you send the questions to the Q&A only tab in the chat box, just because that'll make it easier for me to see them and and pass them along to William to answer. So in the meantime, then, to get the ball rolling, what I'll do is I'll ask a question that we've had pre-submitted. So Billy, do you just want to say hello to everyone? Get your camera working.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for jumping on. Can I just check everyone in the chat can actually see Ollie? Because Ollie, your screen's spinning around for me, but maybe it's just on my side. Can everyone see and hear us okay?
Actually, yours is spinning for me as well.
I think if can everyone see us in the chat or?
Can't see it. Should we turn them on and off again?
Oh, great. Yeah, we can see us. Brilliant. I just can't see you, Ollie, but that seems to be fine.
Okay, cool. And just to answer, I saw a question just spin by. So we're planning for this webinar to be around 45 minutes to an hour, something like that. It'll depend how many questions you guys have and everything, but that's the plan. So I'll lead us off then. So one of the questions we had submitted beforehand, Billy, was, and it's a good question. So why did you start from scratch with Pabau 2? As you know, anyone that's seen our Pabau 2 webpage, which you can see in the sticky at the top, you know, we're going to great pains to make sure everyone realizes it's a brand new product that we've built. You know, it started from the ground up, from scratch. So the question is, why did we start from scratch with Pabau 2 rather than just do an update to Pabau 1?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think Pabau 1 was built over 10 years. So whilst we know that a lot of our clients have grown to love Pabau 1, and some of you may be even thinking, why are we even rebuilding it? You're using it day to day. Why would we need such a big change? And I think kind of primarily it's kind of around user experience. I think a product with a better user experience can make a significant difference in terms of patient satisfaction, loyalty, and ultimately business success. So if we can build a product that looks visually a lot better, I think it's a win-win for everyone all round. And kind of that is the main goal, I would say, with Pabau 1. Pabau 2 is to build something that looks a lot cleaner, is easier to use. And I'm not saying that Pabau 1, is necessarily difficult to use. I'm just kind of more saying from a point of view is that often it requires a lot of training. It can do so much. But as you know, some of you guys that have adopted it or been clients with us for several years now, there was a bit of kind of hand-holding and training that was needed in the initial stages. And I think kind of the way that software is going these days is people kind of almost have an expectation that you can jump on something, have a trial, and just kind of get cracking on and everything feels fluid rather than actually needing training on the platform. And kind of that's been the main focus point of Pabau 2 is to build something that, is on newer technology because Pabau 1, we built in PHP. The internet still uses 80% of the internet is still using PHP. Pabau 2 is built in something called React, which is just naturally performs a lot better than PHP. So we just kind of wanted to be. We feel that the industry or the software sector is going in this direction. And as I mentioned, we've spent the best part of 2 years rebuilding everything from the ground up. So as Ollie mentioned, this isn't just an update. The best way to think of it is kind of, it's not iPhone 10 going to iPhone 11. It's an entirely new phone, basically, is the best way of looking at it. So I know there's going to be a lot of questions around kind of how that's going to work. But that's kind of the be all and end all is kind of, really we're building something that kind of, is potentially going to be groundbreaking to the industry.
Yeah, I think just to add my perspective as well, because obviously I've seen some internal builds of Pabau 2 and things, and this technical point, this using different technology and things, it really does mean that the business can scale a little bit. We can deal with more customers and continue the speed of the system, and everything. So the reason why it's almost, if you imagine from my perspective, and again I'm talking from a relative layman perspective, I view it as you sort of lay the foundations of a house before building the house, right? So this sort of approach to Pabau 2 is how I view it. We built new foundations to build a bigger and better house. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, yeah, and I would say kind of again, Pabau 1, was built up over 10 years, so it can continue to get better, and we can layer over the top of it. But we are layering over foundations that were built 10 years ago, and there's a lot of products on the market today, are 20 years old, 30 years old, particularly in the clinic sector. We want to do something kind of. We've heavily invested in this. So when I say kind of, we've been working on this for 2 years. That is 2 years, but 20-hour days. So it's kind of been an incredible amount of work. I think kind of that's the main reason why kind of I've been a bit quiet over the past 2 years, because we've just been putting our blood, sweat, and tears into this, and kind of we feel that whilst we're kind of only just announcing the launch of this, we feel that kind of over the next few months, people will really start to kind of see for themselves the benefit of what Pabau 2 is going to offer.
Yeah, sounds good. So we've had our first question been highlighted. That's from Keith Tomlinson. So, is there going to be a new online booking platform? And just before William jumps into this, we're not necessarily going to answer lots of feature-based questions today. Can it do this? Can it do that? We'll obviously answer some as appropriate, but this Q&A is more about more general questions, just because it's still, I'm sure everyone can appreciate, it's sort of a moving goalpost, right? We have lots of plans for lots of features, and we're super excited about it, but these features will be integrated over time and things. So I think just for this first Q&A, we're going to try and avoid specific feature questions where we can. But over to you, Billy.
Excellent. Yeah, so we've pretty much building everything from the ground up. So online bookings, there's going to be some features in Pabau 2 that Pabau 1 doesn't offer, but especially online bookings. I mean, just to kind of give you perspective, on Pabau 1, we would have probably one developer building out Connect online bookings. Pabau 2, we have an entire team, so 20 engineers are just working on Pabau Connect, and they have been for 2 years. So if I just beam across my screen here, can everyone see that okay?
Oh, I can see you now, Billy, as well. That's nice. I'm not talking to a screen.
Oh, you can see me? Yeah. So you should be able to see my screen. Is that all coming through?
Yeah, I've got it.
So I'll just give you kind of a quick demo of some of the key changes that we've made to online bookings. So the first thing is, so this is from a client's perspective. I'm on your website. And I'm looking at your online booking portal. There's a lot of dummy data here, so it's probably going to look a bit messy, but I'll try and do the best demo I can. So you can see at the bottom here, you've got the purchase. So the first change that you have in Pabau 2 that we didn't have in Pabau 1 is the ability to actually cross-sell items. So it's not all about, what services can people book. You've also got the ability to sell packages, gift vouchers, and if you want, people can put money on account as part of the booking process. So if I was to go into here and I say, okay, I'm going to book an injectables appointment for lips, you can see the whole process has changed entirely. It's a lot cleaner. Each service now has a service description. You can integrate your reviews as well. So if you're using Pabau for your reviews, that can actually tie in with the service, and people can filter by most relevant, best review, etc. So I can actually go on, I can click onto a service here, hit next. And if you're a multi-location clinic, people can look at the closest clinics to them. If you're just a single location, this step will be skipped. So I can go on, I can click onto a location here. And this is one part of the online bookings that I really like, is that when you're seeing the list of availability, you can actually, this client doesn't have any bookings available. But you can kind of, it organizes the bookings in a way where you can see morning, afternoon, and evening availability. And we've done a lot of work on the online bookings. I don't want to spend too much time going through this, but I will be looking to release a video kind of over the coming days or weeks to kind of go through online bookings a bit more. You can see the employee selections changed. Again, if you want to, you can tie in your reviews. Pabau 2 is very customizable. A lot of what I'm showing you, if you're sitting there saying, hey, we don't really want to show the reviews, you can go ahead and switch that off. But as I was mentioning earlier, you can see a list of morning, afternoon, evening appointments. I can click onto here. And the moment I go ahead and click on a slot here, that's going to go ahead and jump into the booking process. We've made some small changes around user experience. I think kind of one of the things that we wanted to do with online bookings is kind of stick with the times. So if you imagine if you're going into McDonald's or if you're ordering a Domino's pizza, you go ahead, you choose your pizza, you choose your chicken wings, and then when you get to kind of the final screen, the checkout screen, they're saying, do you want to add some sides? Do you want to
cookies?
add in a
Get those cookies.
Exactly, yeah. And we're kind of bringing that element into Pabau Connect. So if you imagine if clients going in and booking a laser treatment or a hydrofacial treatment, and they're booking a single treatment, Pabau is going to pop up and say, hold on a minute, you're booking a hydrofacial, that's £50. Did you know if you were to book 6 hydrofacials, that's actually going to give you this discount? And then on the fly, they can go ahead and book that appointment, but also be upsold or cross-sold a package at the same time. And they can do that in a single flow, so they can go through and check that all out in one go. So we're doing a lot of things around online bookings. I think kind of the other big change that we're making is it's a little more like Deliveroo. So when you're going ahead and you're ordering your takeaway from Deliveroo or Just Eat, you're not having to put your card details in every time. And that's something that we are having to do on Pabau One or most booking systems these days. You put your card details in each time. I think kind of the way that the market is moving is people are kind of expecting to once put their details in, and then just forevermore, when they're going for online bookings, they can just book and just kind of go ahead and click to book, and it will just bill their card. So yeah, lots of things going on with online bookings. I hope kind of that gives you a bit of a demo. But as I said, I'll go through kind of in a little more detail over a video of some of the key changes that we're making around online bookings.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning here that we do have a plan to start doing more videos like this, potentially pre-recorded rather than live, but the videos will actually focus on specific features. So we might go away, for example, at some point and do, a 20-30 minute video specifically just on the online booking, and we'll make sure that's available on all our social medias. We'll email it out to all our customers. So, just keep your eyes peeled, because we do have quite a long-term plan to make as much information available about how Pabau 2 works as possible. Cool. So another interesting question that I saw pop up from Simon, and that's, do you need beta testers for Pabau 2?
Yes, we do. So the process for us to kind of go to launch, because I know that one of the big questions here is going to be, when are you going to launch? And I'll kind of cover that in a bit. But I think kind of right now we're in what we call alpha stage. So we're going to go alpha, beta, live, basically. And alpha stage right now, we've kind of handpicked clients that we think would be suitable for testing. And they are kind of going to be going over the next week or two, giving us kind of that base feedback. But the alpha is very much the best way to kind of distinguish the three steps is alpha. We are definitely expecting problems. Beta, we expect problems, but we feel like the system's going to be usable. And then when we move past the beta stage, when we go into live, that's when we expect, the occasional issues as you would expect in any software system, but kind of manageable rather than kind of high risk issues. So we do need beta testers. If you go onto pabau.com/Pabau2 and then just scroll down to the bottom of the page, you can go ahead and register for the beta program. And then one of our colleagues would be in touch with you and just kind of arrange a pre-screen and see if that you'll be suitable for the beta. And what I mean by suitable for the beta, because one of the things I wanted to touch upon, when we say we're handpicking clients, we're not necessarily saying, okay, we want to pick this client, that client. There is a set of criteria that we need to go through before we know that if you're ready to move to Pabau 2. Because one of the things, and as I mentioned at the start of the call, this is an entirely new product. So it may be, for example, that Pabau 2 may not have a feature that Pabau 1 has. And that's why if you go to the website, pabau.com/Pabau2, you can see everything Pabau 1 does, everything Pabau 2 does, when we're expecting certain things to happen in Pabau 2. And then you yourself will make the decision on whether or not you guys are ready to move across to the new product. If you're coming to Pabau 2 entirely new, then you're not going to know the difference anyway, and you probably would say, actually, I'm going to start off straight away by jumping on board on Pabau 2.
Yeah, sounds good. So you've actually just answered the question I was going to highlight next. So let me just do a quick scroll through. So a question from Pierre: when will Pabau 2 be launched? You've kind of already covered that, but I think Pierre and probably everyone here is thinking, trying to get an idea of timelines and timeframes.
Yes, I think kind of one of the main things that I think people are going to be constantly asking is, how quickly can we move across to Pabau 2? There's not necessarily a launch date in that. It's more so when your business is ready to move across. Because I think one of the things that we do understand in great detail at Pabau is how big of a change this is to your business. So we know that this is not just a light switch moment, and we're going to kind of suddenly start pushing everyone towards Pabau 2. It's going to be a gradual process. We're going to go into alpha, we'll move across into beta. And I think what you'll start to see over the coming months is basically us pushing out Pabau 2 more and more. More newsletters, more media, more content. And it will be kind of Pabau 2 focused. But really it is a decision that you'll make as a business. So for example, Pabau 2 is not going to have zero integration from day one. And that's quite important for a lot of clients. But it is on our roadmap. It is on our short-term roadmap. So we are expecting that to be ready in, say, 3 months. So you might be sitting there and say, actually, we really need zero for our business. So Pabau 1 is our preferred product right now. Hey, we're going to go and check out the web page in 2 or 3 months and see if that's done. And if that's done, at that point, you might start exploring Pabau 2. But it really does come down to the amount you're using Pabau 1 versus Pabau 2. But one thing I will say is it shouldn't always be about, can it do this feature? Can it do that feature? I think as we bring out more media, you will start to think and weigh up, actually it doesn't do zero, but we have all of these new things we can do that Pabau 1 doesn't have. So it really is kind of measuring, ROI in a way, what is going to give me the best bang for my buck? Am I better off on Pabau 2 or should I stick with Pabau 1 for the time being? So
I think over time as well, right? In the, as Pabau 2 gets layered up, we like to think that people will want to move to Pabau 2 because it is going to be better in some ways than Pabau Classic, right? And it's just going to take time for it to reach that point, and it'll be an individual decision.
Exactly. And to us, the only thing that's changed in our minds is that we, finally we've announced it and we've got this out there. But we've been working on Pabau 2 for 2 years and nothing has changed with Pabau 1. We're kind of onboarding more clients than ever with Pabau 1. And we're going to continue to support that in the same way. So there isn't suddenly a light bulb where suddenly all the support stops on Pabau 1 and moves over to Pabau 2. We've been supporting the both of them for 2 years anyway. So nothing changes in that respect. We take on board the feedback that we received when we upgraded the calendar. I don't know, more for the long-standing clients. Some of you may remember we went from calendar version 140 to 160. And the truth is, not a lot of people liked it initially. I think now the feedback is a lot better. And you look back on the old calendar and you think, oh, why was I using that? But there was this gradual kind of adoption for the new calendar to be adopted by our clients. So we're expecting that with Pabau 2. We're not expecting suddenly a rush of people moving across straight away, especially not in this kind of alpha beta stage. But yeah, at some point as we roll out the content, I think more and more people are going to want to adopt.
Sounds good. So another interesting question that's popped up in my mind here, I'll just broadcast it. So, and this question from Brioni. So my main concern is how our existing templates, packages, services, etc. will migrate to Pabau 2. Yeah,
really good question. I think, so the one thing I will say on Pabau 2 is, whilst we've rebuilt the entire front end and we've done a lot of work on the back end, the actual database itself is going to remain the same. So all of the services, all of the products, all of the packages, everything that's in Pabau 1 are not necessarily migrated across to Pabau 2 because they already exist in the same database. So there isn't, I know a lot of you would have come from other software systems to Pabau, or some of you may have started from fresh. And you'll probably remember there's this migration process where we import the data from the old system to the new system. With Pabau 2, there is no data import. It is kind of, we switch on to Pabau 2 and everything in Pabau 1 will be in Pabau 2. Now, there is an exception list and we're going to get better on the website at kind of identifying the things that you will need to set up from scratch. So things that spring to mind, permissions. The permission system in Pabau 2 is completely different. So it's not the case that you can move the permissions from Pabau 1 to Pabau 2, i.e. can a user create a client? Can a user create a form? These can't be moved across because we've completely rebuilt the permission system. Whereas the services, whilst we've got new features against service, the core foundation stays the same. So all of your medical forms, all of the clients, everything is just by default in Pabau 2. But we'll come up with a list, and it is a small list. Letters is another thing. If you use Pabau for letters, it's completely different in Pabau 2. Those would need to be rebuilt. But there will be a gradual process, like client notifications, email templates is something that completely different in Pabau 2. Better. It's not a bad thing, but they will need to be rebuilt. And that's what I'm saying. There's this kind of gradual process of migration. But the majority, if I was to give a percentage, 98%, I would say, of the stuff is just moved across by standard.
Great. So next one. Again from Brioni, will there be an Android app for Pabau 2?
It's an interesting question. So we've done a lot more work on the web platform on Pabau 2 in how responsive it is on mobile devices. So Pabau 2 will work on any device anywhere. So mobile, tablet, etc., etc. In terms of an app, we started building from day one with Pabau 2. We rebuilt the whole Pabau app. So by app, I mean, what you're using for your journey, your appointments, etc. We rebuilt the whole thing. We did kind of, at the 1 year mark, we did put it on pause because we were thinking, okay, when I say rebuild the whole thing, I mean for Android and iOS. So there was a plan to rebuild everything in Android or have an option for Android. The reason why we put it on pause is because we didn't want the change to be so big that it's incredibly impactful, could be detrimental to the business. So we kind of thought, okay, the journey, whilst you're using Pabau 2, the Pabau 1 app will still work, be in the journey. And we feel like the one thing, if we understand if anything goes wrong, it's bad for the business. But when it's something that's in the patient's hands, i.e. the iPad, and they're filling their consent form, if that side of things goes wrong, it's a big risk. So we put that on pause. We do have plans for it in the mid to long term. But as Pabau 2 from day one, it will still be the actual app itself will still be the Pabau 1 app. But we have it in our plans for sure. I'd say it's probably one of the most requested things we get asked is the Android app. So
that's why I highlighted it. Yeah, I've seen it a few times. Cool. So next question, which stands out for me. I know we said we weren't necessarily going to talk about features and integrations and things, but this one I think would be quite interesting for a lot of people. So a question here from Khaldun: can Klarna be integrated with Pabau 2?
It's on our radar. So Klarna, so from day one, we would have integration with Stripe for payments. So card terminals, actual card payments, online payments will all be done with Stripe. So we'll be introducing the actual handheld terminals. So right now, if you're using Pabau or most systems, to be honest, you would use Stripe for, say, the online booking. They'll pay the deposit or make the payment. And then you would use a separate terminal, almost like a WorldPay or a Barclays, to actually process the payment. With Pabau 2, we have everything. So you've got the Stripe online payments, but then also you have the handheld terminal as well. And the reason why that's quite important is because they're interconnected. So if someone makes a deposit or an online booking and makes a payment online, when they come into clinic and they're making payment, their card details are saved on file. So you can immediately build them out either with the handheld terminal or just check them out there. Klarna is something that is requested heavily. The reason why I'm kind of talking about Stripe is because Stripe has the option or has a setting where you can do checkout by Klarna. So if you're using Stripe, you'll be able to enable this setting. I don't know if it's something that's done on the user side or our side at Pabau, but you'll be able to enable the setting, and then Klarna becomes kind of an out-of-the-box solution. We know that Klarna is something that is requested heavily, so we are exploring that particular option with Stripe. If we find that doesn't work, then Klarna is certainly something on our short to midterm plan. Just what you'll kind of notice in this call or throughout these Q&As, I'll constantly be referring to the short, mid, and long-term plan. I think with Pabau 1, it was very much we would just kind of scramble and create features based on feedback. Most of our features these days, particularly with Pabau 2, whilst a lot of it has come from Pabau, a lot of it is driven from the community forum. So if you're not already a member of the forum, it's community.pabau.com. Alex, if you just put a link in the chat there, community.pabau.com, and you can go ahead and post your ideas. But we know that Klarna is something that is frequently being requested, so it's certainly high up on our list. But as I mentioned, we work short, midterm, and long term. So if ever we use the word short term, it usually is the case either we've planned it, we're actually working on it, potentially, for 1 or 2 years. There's certain things we started a year ago, and we're expecting in our short term. Midterm is we have the idea. We're probably going to work on it, but it's maybe a year down the line. It may be 2 years. And long term is more. We have the idea. We want to do it, but it's not on our immediate plans to do. often if we're working on something, it means that, it potentially is coming soon.
I think, just to add to that, internally we're just really short of ideas and improvements that could be made, and it's almost like drinking from a fire hose in a way for the developers and everything. We have all these ideas that we want to integrate, but actually what we need to do is kind of prioritize and work out which ones will make the biggest impact to our clients in the quickest possible time. So yeah, I think that the Klarna thing, along with a lot of other ideas we've had, but yeah, the developers team do need to kind of prioritize. Cool. So another interesting question here from Dimitri. So is there any scope for Pabau to be used as a CRM for a medical clinic and being used to integrate other clinics, such as a weight loss clinic, hormonal health clinic, or is the main focus going to remain Mediaesthetics?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. So we have put a lot of time and resource into sidestepping into the the medical sector in a way. So we appreciate, Pabau 1 and Pabau 2 kind of often feels like we're geared up towards kind of Mediaesthetics. But we have put a huge focus, a dedicated team with Pabau 2 to build in features for kind of more medical clinics. And I'll kind of give you a bit of a demo on that actually. So let me beam across my screen here. There we go. Is that coming through okay?
Yeah, that's good.
So if I go ahead and I search for a client at the top here, so I'm just going to go into a client record. So the first thing you'll notice when I'm opening up a client record is the UI is completely different. So previously you had the tabs along the top on Pabau 1. Now you've got them running along the side here. Let me just go to a record that has a bit more data in there so we can visualize it a bit better. Let's go to Selena Johnson. Here we go. There we are. Is that all coming through okay, Ollie?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, you see it.
Yeah. So the first thing you'll kind of notice is, as I mentioned, that the tabs are completely different. Along the side here, rather than having along the top all of your different forms, medical history, etc., we've separated it under this section EMR, and then all of your consent forms, treatment forms, all sit under this section here called forms. If you did prefer to just filter by consent form, you can do so along the top here. So you have the ability to filter by treatment, consent, or medical history. So you probably remember when you pressed EMR before, they were just kind of all grouped together. So I just want to go back a step. So the first thing you'll see when I clicked on a client record, on Pabau 1, it immediately loaded into the appointments tab. Whereas on Pabau 2, we have the ability to customize a dashboard. And the reason why I wanted to show you this is one of the features I feel that does sidestep into that kind of medical sector. Because if you're thinking, if you're working on the reception, for example, when you load a client card, you may want to see things such as outstanding debt, when was their last appointment, when's their next appointment. You're not as interested in the medical data that you need. Whereas as a medic or a weight loss clinic, for example, you may want to know, what's their BMI over time, what prescriptions have they got, what medications have they been prescribed, any medical history, any family history, these type of things. And that's the first thing that you'll see when you load the client record is those questions, any blood tests. And this can be customized. So if you're a doctor, you might want to see this feedback. If you were the receptionist, you can go and create your own dashboard, basically. If I go ahead and press the plus in the corner here, this is how we would actually create an action with the client. So I can go and create a treatment note, a consent form. I can request bloods, prescriptions, etc. So if I go click on here and create a prescription, this is one of the other changes that we've made for kind of the medical sector. And I know that in Mediaesthetics, some of you may be looking at this feature and say, actually, this is quite helpful for our clinic as well. One of the big changes we've made is with prescriptions. If I load up this prescription here and I scroll down, you can see when I click into the drugs box now, you've got all of your favorite drugs listed down the side here. And we already had this on Pabau 1, but we still integrate with the BNF drug database and the medicines.org. So if I go on here and I search finasteride, for example, and I click on a particular drug, this side of things is completely different. So it's popping up here with some suggested comments around the drugs, again, pulled from the BNF database. Or I can go here, show details, and I can set the dosage myself. But actually, you're going to go ahead and type your signature in the bottom here. What also we've introduced, which is really cool, is a signature builder. So I can go on here and I can say, actually, I'm going to prescribe 1 gram oral 3 times a day as needed for 7 days. Hit save there, and you can go ahead and hit save, and that's added it onto there. What's really, really cool on the side here, it's actually going to pop up with side effects, etc. Before I go into that, one of the other big changes we've made is around allergies. So on Pabau 1, when we would go ahead and we would add an allergy, a lot of you would be using the alerts feature for this. So you might say, okay, this person is allergic to peanuts. And you would go ahead and write a note. You would free type a note. The problem with free typing notes is we can't then really check for contraindications. So for anyone who is doing hydrofacial, for example, we all know that, if the client has an allergy to shellfish, then that's a contraindication. So what we're doing with the new allergy system in Pabau is we're using AI to track any drug or service contraindications. So if I'm going on here and I'm adding an allergy, I can actually go ahead and click specific drug allergy. And I might turn around and say, actually, this patient is allergic to paracetamols. And I can actually choose the drug from a list. And why that's quite important is we're storing what's called the SNOMED code. And because of that, that's how we can kind of check for contraindications. So I could say, okay, this person has a paracetamol allergy, it's fatal, and the reaction to that is cough. And I can go and save that allergy. And that's now going to save the allergy against the client record. But it also helps me on the side here for being able to see, okay, does this flag any side effects or contraindications on the right-hand side? I can go ahead, hit save the prescription against the patient record, and then it's going to pop up and say, do you want to print the prescription? A new feature to Pabau 2 is the ability to print labels. So if you wanted to if you were a dispensary and you wanted to print the label, you can do. And then you can also print out the advice slip. Something that I'll be demoing in around 3 weeks' time is we actually are working on integration for e-pharmacies. So the ones that we're working on the short-term roadmap is integration with CloudRx and e-surgery. So that will actually make it so that in that list of drugs, if the drug can be provided by the e-pharmacy, you actually have the ability to hit a button that will fire off the prescription in a safe way, compliant to the pharmacy, and then the pharmacy can actually deliver the drugs to the clinic or to the patient. That's something that we've been working on for a while, and we're expecting that to be launched very soon. There are so many changes. I know probably I'm not answering your question directly, but there are so many changes we're doing around kind of the medical sector, in addition to all of the stuff we're doing with spas and mediclinics as well. Things like letters, like the ability to see all letters in one place. We have a unique feature in Pabau 2 called client referrals. So, we have several thousand users using the platform now. So we're working on something called Pabau Network for people that are dealing with referrals. So if you wanted to refer a patient from one clinic to another client that is using Pabau, you can do it through our network. If you want to opt into the network, you can do, and that will allow other clinics to refer to you as well. So we're doing a lot of changes around the medic sector.
I think it's fair to say then, to sort of summarize the answer, is that no, we have plans to not focus on MediAesthetic. It will be a core part of the business as it is now and always will be, but we have our sights set on other industries as well, I would say.
For sure.
Cool. So next question then. This one caught my eye. So from Mina, the reviews that can be viewed on Pabau, is that done on Pabau or can it be linked via an external website, e.g. Google HeyDoc? The reason why I've highlighted this is because the review system is something that I know some work's been done on, and I think might be nice to talk about that, Billy.
Yeah, sure. So I'm assuming HeyDoc. Do you mean Doctify? I don't think HeyDoc is a reviews platform. I think you're referring to Doctify. Apologies if not, but I'll kind of give that. I'll demonstrate that. So if I go into setup here. Actually, let's just give you a little glimpse of reviews just in general. So if I click on the side here and we click into reviews, one big change in Pabau 2 is not only can you use the Pabau review system, we actually are going to be integrating with Facebook, Google, Trustpilot, and Doctify. So this is something that's coming soon. And what this will give us the ability to do is list all of the reviews in one place. So you could probably see the review source on the left-hand side here. this is indicating this is a Pabau review. But as you know, sometimes it's quite annoying having reviews on different platforms. This will allow you to kind of almost link everything in one place as a kind of reputation manager. And what's also really, really cool is you can respond to them all in one place. So if I wanted to respond to this particular review, I can go on here and I can actually write back a response to that review. That's not something that we had in Pabau 1. So yeah, the short answer is if you're referring to Doctify as you're creating your review surveys, so if I go through here, next step, you can go and obviously customize the survey format. You'll get to this step here, integrations. And if you go to show more, you'll be able to tie in your reviews with Doctify. The reviews in Pabau 2 are working as of today with the Pabau reviews. The other integrations is something that we have on our short-term roadmap.
Yeah, I think that this one stood out to me particularly. Just, you know, as a marketeer, obviously reviews are a big part of what I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. They're very important, and I thought this concept was just a really, really cool feature to be adding. One place to manage all the reviews from all the different platforms. You know, I wish we had that for our business. You know, it would be a very handy thing indeed. Cool.
And
so next,
just one more point on that. We've done some work on the actual review page itself and the way that you integrate these reviews. So you probably remember on Pabau 1, you had your big page here where you would kind of list all your reviews. This is an optional feature that you can kind of enable, but it would actually give the client an indication on what the client, the category the client come in for. And you've obviously got the ability to kind of anonymize these reviews, however you want to do it. Yeah, but we've rebuilt the entire review platform is what I would say.
Cool. So next one from Katie, reporting. Will we be able to export individual patients to Excel and recon accounts, invoices against payments? And one of the reasons why I highlighted this is that I think the reporting system is definitely something worth talking about today. You know, for my money, you know, it's a really big improvement, and I'm excited for everyone to see it. So over to you, Billy.
Yeah, so similar to the Connect side of Pabau 2, we have a team dedicated, they're called Lightspeed. They're dedicated to building out the reports in Pabau 2. So I think kind of one of the biggest things we wanted to avoid when building reports in Pabau 2 is losing any reports from Pabau 1. Because we know that you guys get in the habit of, you know, running the FI00, the daily reconciliation reports. And these are all reports that kind of your business has become accustomed to. So you get to the end of the day, you run a very specific report. And what we wanted to do with Pabau 2 is kind of bring across a lot of those reports from Pabau 1 so that you've kind of, when you start using Pabau 2, it's not such a big change. But also we've kind of introduced a lot more functionality around building your own custom reports. And then we've also introduced what we call next-gen reports. And I'll try and explain all of these. So can you see my screen here, Ollie?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
So the first thing I'm going to show you is company reports. So some of you may be familiar with these terms already. So we still have a lot of the same reports that you had in Pabau 1, such as a big spender, package sales. Some of them have just been kind of named slightly differently. But the base of the reports from Pabau 1 are going to be in Pabau 2. There's some new ones in there, but these are what we call company reports. So these are the reports that Pabau is kind of saying, look, these are the favorite reports that most clinics tend to use, and this is what we're suggesting. But what we're kind of expecting clients to do is actually start to go in and build a lot more of their own custom reports. And we're going to be providing videos and tutorials on how to do this in Pabau 2, because it's a lot more powerful in terms of what you can do in Pabau 2. The way that we feel that the industry is moving is these days, not a lot of people want to look at what we call data tables. You don't necessarily always want to look at, you know, line by line. For some cases you will do, but line by line, everything that's going on in the business. Sometimes you just need to know, okay, how many appointments have I had, or how many clients have I seen this month in my business over a period of time? And that's kind of the biggest change in what I would say is with Pabau 2. So if I go ahead and I click onto custom reports. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how we would actually go and build a custom report in Pabau 2. So you choose what it is you want to report on. So let's use that example actually. Let's say that we want to build a appointment related report. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click onto appointments. Pabau is going to give you some suggestions. It's going to turn around and say, do you want to see how many bookings you've had from Facebook, what your high value bookings are? I'm going to turn around and say here, no, I'm a bit more of an advanced user. I'm going to click start from scratch here. This is going to allow me to build a report from scratch. So this is entirely different in Pabau 1. In Pabau 1, you could build custom reports and you could add on fields. And I know some of you kind of are advanced users of the reports. What we're trying to do here is kind of make it a little bit more visual, a little more kind of like a drag and drop tool almost. So I'm building a report here. And let's say that I want to build a report, appointment by service. So you can see here, I can see a list of my appointments. If I want to go ahead and add on a particular field here, I can do so on the left-hand side. And by adding a field here, it actually makes it filterable as well. So let's say that, for example, I want to go kind of a bit more advanced, and I would say appointments by service, no shows, for example. I might then go in and I add in a status here. So I'm going to say, let's add in appointment status. And the one thing that I know kind of I whizzed through it there, but one thing that you'll notice in that list is we've given you a lot more access to the fields available in Pabau. And why that's so important is it allows you to kind of get really creative with these reports that you wish to create. One of the big feature requests we had in Pabau 1 is for a field, and it's a simple field. Have they completed their medical history? Or when was the last time they completed their medical history? So that kind of allows you to change your day up a little bit. If you know a client hasn't completed their medical history, you may engage or interact with them differently when they come into the clinic. So on that topic, let's go ahead and say, let's create an appointment by service. We're going to say, we're going to add in the appointment status, and then we're going to go in and add a filter here. So I want to look at all appointments this, I don't know, let's go this year, for example, or last year, last quarter, let's go. So we're saying creating last quarter, and then I can go ahead and add another filter here, and I might say, okay, where the status is, and I could say appointment status is, and then I can go ahead and look for no shows. So I'm going to say, let's look at no shows in the last quarter, etc., etc. So what I was saying earlier is if you want to look at your data in this particular way where you can kind of see it itemized, I can leave the data table here. One of the features that I really like in Pabau is the ability to visualize it. So you'll notice these little options along the top right here. So I can go ahead and visualize this as a pie chart, a donut, something that's on our short-term roadmap is columns, a bar chart, and you've also got scorecards as well. So I might say, okay, let's change this now. I'm looking at all the appointments by service where the status is no-show, and I can now visualize it. So I can say, okay, we lost out 3 Botox appointments this month through no-shows. Or you might turn around and say, actually, I don't want to look at no-shows. Let's just look at all appointments. So I can go and remove that filter. And actually, I'm not going to do it by service. I'm going to look at my appointments by who they're with, appointments by who they're with, for example. So I can go down here and I can change my segment by. So I can change my segment by, and you've got the options here. And I'm going to say, let's look at who the appointment's with. So I'm no longer looking at how many appointments we've got. I'm grouping it by who the appointment's with. So I can see Danny Green here has done 18 appointments. But now I want to say, okay, actually, let's not look at just who the appointment's with and the number of appointments they've had. Let's see how much revenue they've brought in. So I can change the measure by. I can look at service value here. And I can now see, okay, Danny Green, this quarter or last quarter has brought in £3,200 worth of revenue. So you can see kind of how by having these options to visualize, segment, it unlocks so many possibilities for what you can do with the reporting feature, not just on a revenue level, but also on a client level. So you can say, okay, I want to look at all of my big spenders. I want to group that by gender, for example, or answer to your question earlier, Dimitri, with a weight loss clinic, you might say, okay, I want to look at their BMI and measure that over the past year and see that on a chart. So we can get really creative with these reports. We've put a lot of work into them. And yeah, we feel like it's going to be a huge feature in comparison to kind of what we had on Pabau 1.
I think this is actually a really good, almost like example of like a generalist way of describing, some of the advancements in Pabau 2. In that, Pabau Classic, you could do, you can do quite a lot of what we've just shown, but it's just harder to do, right? It takes a more advanced user to do. Whereas, with Pabau 2, it's been built so that it's easier, it's more visual, and it's more readily available.
Definitely. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Katie.
Cool. So another question here, which is quite a good one. So from Sally, so can you trial Pabau 2? And if you don't like it, can you go back to Pabau 1? And will Pabau 1 be phased out long term?
So good question. So Pabau 2, the way that Pabau 2 is going to work is we whilst we do have a bridge, what we call a bridge, where we can kind of go back and forth from Pabau 1 and Pabau 2, we do kind of want to see it as a one-way journey because as we've mentioned, it is kind of like a migration to a new system entirely in terms of the day-to-day process. Whilst we're not migrating data, there is a bit of training involved. There is a kind of a we know that you guys are going to want some kind of hand-holding throughout the process. So initially, we're seeing it as a one-way street, and I'd say it probably would remain the same throughout. So if you are considering Pabau 2, you just need to be absolutely sure once the alpha is out of the way and the beta is out of the way, you just want to make sure that Pabau's ready and also your business ready as well. It was quite funny. One of the first time I spoke to someone about Pabau 2, when I thought that they were going to be really excited about the prospect, the response was quite negative because rightfully, they said all of their processes, all of their clinic, it's quite a large clinic, all of their business processes are built up on Pabau 1. They have documents, they have their own training material, their own videos, and they're built up on Pabau 1. So we do understand how big of a move it is to Pabau 2, but it is very much a one-way street. All of your data will work from Pabau 1 and Pabau 2. We haven't done a serious amount of testing on data created in Pabau 2, potentially working in Pabau 1. So I would say it is definitely a one-way street. And when you're ready and Pabau's ready, that'll be made possible. And in terms of Pabau 1 being phased out, we have no plans at all to phase Pabau 1 out. I think kind of like we said at the start, is very much they're two products built by the same company. So Pabau 1 will continue to be supported. Yeah, there's going to be some more marketing around Pabau 2, but we are still going to be providing the same support for Pabau 1. At some point in the future, we will be encouraging clients who are using kind of Pabau 1 as it gets older to move across to Pabau 2, but we have no immediate plans or any day. It hasn't even been discussed when would we look to phase Pabau 1 out, because at the moment it's not on the radar.
Yeah, and that ties into our earlier point, doesn't it? In that the whole point of this Pabau 2 launch really is that it's a decision for each individual business to take. Like when Pabau 2 is in a state where you feel it is the right decision for you, and you might want to stay on Pabau Classic. That is some a decision that you guys can take individually. There'll be it's not like you're going to wake up one morning and then suddenly your CRM system's changed to Pabau 2. Like that's absolutely not how it's going to work. Cool. So there was one other question. Just to note as well, we've had a few questions to ask if this presentation will be available later, and it will. So we'll be sending recordings to all the registrants, recording of this video, so you can rewatch it as at your own leisure. And one question that I'm seeing coming in quite often, I won't highlight a specific one, but it's to do with pricing of Pabau 2 and how it changes. So just one that I've got absolutely in front of me. Just for Billy. So will the price increase? Will there be a price increase? We're currently on Pabau 1 at a certain price for a small business. What's the plan for pricing with Pabau 2?
Yeah. So with around the pricing on Pabau 2, we haven't discussed until we kind of get the feedback from the alpha and the beta plan that we have. We haven't discussed kind of increasing the pricing or any price changes in the short term. We have kept our prices at the kind of the same rate for 10 years now. So the short answer is it hasn't really been on our mind. I think the main initial step for us was to kind of put the hard work in getting this thing out there. And like I said at the start, it's kind of why it's like why we've gone very quiet on a product level, because we have had this in the pipeline. It could. It's not something that we're really discussing at the moment. I think kind of what we have been discussing as a company is bringing out optional add-ons. So Pabau 2 will likely do a lot, if not all of what Pabau 1 does in most aspects. If there's anything kind of more unique in a way, or something that's kind of a more advanced feature, then that may be sold as an add-on or an iteration add-on. It's not something that we've really kind of discussed in detail at the moment. The main driver for us at the moment is to just build something amazing. And I think kind of when there's a big focus on kind of making revenue from it, it kind of distracts everyone in a way. And the main goal right now is to kind of fulfill the promise in getting Pabau 2 out there.
Yeah, cool. So interesting question here. We've sort of already covered it in a little bit, but can clinicians lock certain documents so that only they can see them? And to my mind, this is a nice segue to just mention the new permissions system again.
Yeah. So in the short term, no, they can't. It's a great feature idea. So we'll drop that down. We'll drop that down. So we haven't got that in Pabau 1 or Pabau 2. I know that you've got the ability to enable certain permissions. What I will say about Pabau 2 permissions is it's a lot easier for us to develop into them. Pabau 1, it was a bit of a struggle to actually add new permissions in, because every time we add a permission, you lock down a feature. So if we suddenly say, okay, we're now adding this permission in where you can no longer edit a client record, it can create a lot of pain for people on the other side if they haven't had the time to go in and enable that permission. So in the short term, no, you can't do that, but that is a really great suggestion. That's something that we'll go ahead and look at.
Great, just scrolling through. Core modules. Oh, this is an interesting one, sort of a more advanced one from Rick. So is API webhooks still going to work in Pabau 2?
It's an interesting one. The short answer is we're not overly sure. With it being the same database, we're expecting the Pabau 1 webhooks to work in Pabau 2. I see no reason why it shouldn't. At some point in the future, that may change, but the goal would be for us to build webhooks at some point in Pabau 2. The way that Pabau 2 works in terms of the platform, and it's kind of similar in Pabau 1, is Pabau 2 is a lockdown product. The idea is, if you imagine kind of your iPhone, you'd have your phone, and then the idea is all of the more kind of advanced features, you would kind of install apps, or you install integrations and things such as that. So we do have a big focus on webhooks. We have a big focus on APIs. We want to do a lot of our APIs. We want to make the APIs extensive so that you guys can go ahead and build functionality that works alongside Pabau. I do think that webhooks should work from the Pabau 1 webhooks into Pabau 2. Just bear in mind when you migrate across to Pabau 2, I don't know how long they will work for. So if anything, if we haven't launched webhooks by the time that you migrate across, I'll just have that in your back of your minds that I probably would wait around, depending on how the complexity of your integration. I would wait around for the Pabau 2 webhooks and APIs.
Yeah, and again, just to highlight that point, that it's going to be an individual decision on a business level. We're going to provide you with all the information that you need to make that decision, such as the product roadmap on the Pabau 2 page. So what we'd encourage everyone to do is make sure that they get a good grasp of what is available in Pabau 2 relative to Pabau Classic before making that decision to switch. And and bear in mind, certainly for the alpha as well, if anyone is applying and for the closed beta when it launches, we won't just give you the button to click and you'll change. We'll have like a screening process where people internally will talk to you and make sure it's the right decision for you. So don't think that if you sign up to the beta on the page, suddenly your system's going to change. It absolutely doesn't work like that. Instead, we'll send out some emails to you. We'll have a screening call. People from the team will talk to you, and we'll make sure it's the right decision for you and your business. So very much a handheld, process, certainly initially. Cool. So one question that came up earlier that I missed, my colleagues just highlighted it, is from David. So how will you improve integration with the lead management system? And I know that a lot of work has been done on the lead management system, so I'm sure Billy's going to be quite keen to show it off.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just do a bit of a screen share on that one, actually. There we go. Is that all coming through okay?
Yeah, got it.
So one of the features that we have in Pabau 2 that we never had in Pabau 1 is a feature called pipeline. So like you can in Pabau 1, when you load your leads, you will see a list of all of your leads here. So you can visually look at your lists in kind of a data table. One of the changes that you'll notice is a lot of green. Black means the lead is open. Green means it's won, and red means it's lost. So the idea is we want to further progress the lead system within Pabau 2. So we're not necessarily looking at integrations with the likes of Salesforce or HubSpot. We want to improve on what we have in Pabau 2. And I think kind of one of the features around leads that we personally use ourselves here at Pabau is what we call Kanban board. And I don't know if you've used the likes of HubSpot, where you can see kind of your leads kind of almost row by row. And that's one of the things that we're here.
It's like Monday.com or Trello. It's that list feature where you move cards between.
Exactly, yeah. And that's something that we've built in here. So not only can I see my leads now in a data table, I can actually go ahead and see them row by row. And why that's quite important is you can go ahead and you can build your own, what we call pipelines. So you might turn around and say, okay, I'm a surgical clinic, and our lead process isn't as easy as maybe a clinic in a different industry. You might have multiple steps to it, and you can go on, you can create your pipelines. So you might not have reach out to them, open, etc. You may have different pipelines. But the idea is that you'll be able to transition these leads across the different sections. And if they were to go ahead and mark that lead as 1, you can move that down here and move it into 1 there. And then just in general, when I click into a lead, the interface is completely different. You probably remember on Pabau 1, you had all of the tabs going along the top. On Pabau 2, you just have one big timeline of all of the activity going on. So admittedly, this is all dummy data, so it doesn't look great, but hopefully this kind of gives you some visualization on how this kind of would look. And the other big change as well is you can associate services to the leads. So I know it's not a question that's coming at the moment, but one of the big feature requests that we're getting is the ability to build treatment plans and quotations. That's something that is on our radar. And the starting point of that is to be able to associate a service to a lead, because then what you can do is you can go and convert that inquiry to a quote. And that's something that we're looking at. As in Pabau 1, you can assign the lead, you can mark it as lost 1. I can hit mark as 1 there, and that's going to move that into the 1 stage. Nice bit of confetti as well.
Hey.
So the short answer is we're not necessarily looking to integrate outside of Pabau. We want to kind of improve the lead system, because we feel that is a unique feature in Pabau. Like often when we onboard clients, they're using one system for their clinic management software, another system for their leads, another system for their medical. And we're trying to kind of make it so that, the starting journey in Pabau is a lead. They come through your website, they go in as a lead, then they go on and convert into a patient. And that's something that we want to kind of improve on in Pabau too.
I think on that note as well, a question hasn't come in for this, but it's certainly top of my mind. This whole idea of, customers using different softwares for different things. I think one thing that might be worth pointing out is the improvement of the sort of email system. The drag drop and all that kind of stuff, how we've improved that. Because I know that, that there'll be quite a few customers that are currently using something like MailChimp, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you want to show that or not?
So I think kind of we're just, do you want to extend, I think we've hit the hour mark, but I feel like there's still a lot of unanswered questions.
We have, yeah. There's quite a few. One of the ones that sticks out to me is, where can I get a sweet Pabau hoodie? So I'm going to bear that one. We might bring some to the next trade show we do, or something like that. Maybe I need to get a shop up and running and start selling.
We'll have to give Diego. Diego's going to be at Ace, so we'll have to give him a box and he can hand them out. That's probably what we'll do, if it's okay with you, Ollie. We'll extend for 20 to 30 minutes more. Sure. Appreciate we're going over the time. I feel like there's still quite a lot of questions.
There's a really.
And then we can, if you need to drop off, feel free. But
no, it's all right. There's a really good one here actually. I'll just highlight that, and this is from Rick. So, will there be functionality to manage third-party referrers, i.e. Bupa, for invoicing the referrer, seeing referrals, referrer-specific pricing, etc.?
So we've only just started the specifications for referrals. So Rick, it'd be great to kind of get your feedback on that point, because it's certainly something that we want to expand on. I don't have, because we haven't started the actual development of it yet, I don't have anything to show you, I'm afraid, but it'd be great to kind of jump on a call, get your feedback. Right now, the way that we're building the referral system in Pabau 2 is kind of clinic to clinic, or Pabau client to Pabau client. But it'll be great to kind of understand a little more about how the Bupa invoicing works for third-party referrers.
Cool. another sort of fairly feature-specific question here, which I think is worth highlighting, is from Catherine. Will there be any improvements to the stock features?
There will be quite a lot, I would say. So I think kind of what we found on Pabau 1 is the purchase order feature wasn't getting used a great deal. And when we were kind of getting feedback from the clients, it was kind of all around usability and the interface. So the big change that we've made on Pabau 2, this still is in development. So you can see it's got the soon label. So I apologize if something crashes or doesn't actually work, but I'll try and give you the best demo I can on this. So under the product section now, you've got products, inventory, and orders. So I know that you've asked on inventory, but these all tie in kind of together. Also, you asked on stock. So product, inventory, orders. If I go ahead and I click onto inventory, I can see a dashboard here where I can see all of my previous stock counts. If I wanted to start a new count, I click new count here. I can resume existing ones. I've got a bunch of data in here, which is why there's so many. But in usual circumstances, you'll click new stock. We'd say, okay, we count in retail or consumables. I'm going to count some retail. And we can do a full stock count, or you can go ahead and choose partial. But I'm going to do full stock count. So one of the big changes is the way that we kind of see this working in Pabau 2 is through an app or a barcode scanner. So previously, you probably remember you've got your list and you'd go and you would type each of the items. Because we're doing a full count, the idea is you just go item by item and scan each item. And you'd go ahead and scan the product. If the product doesn't exist in the database, which is what this one's going to do, it's going to ask you which product is it that you're scanning. So you might say, okay, I've just scanned the barcode 118. This is the product it is. It's not in my database, but by signing it here, it's going to go ahead and update that product. So stock taking in Pabau 2 is a lot easier. I've whizzed past it. I've whizzed past it there because I'm going to show you the order side of this as well. If I click into orders, so in addition to running stock counts, we also have the purchase orders as well. And one of the really cool things we're doing around ordering is not just about kind of ordering with your suppliers. We have plans with Pabau 2, and again, it's one of those things that's been requested quite heavily to build a product store. So I showed you earlier Connect and the ability to online book, sell packages, etc. Pabau 2, you would actually be able to release your retail products online as well. That's something we've made a lot of work on. So I'm showing you orders here. The reason why we've renamed it from purchase ordering to orders is because this isn't just purchase orders. This is client orders as well. And that's something that we'll be launching some videos about. But yeah, if I wanted to go and create a new order, I can go ahead and build an order from scratch. Suggest for me is a really cool feature. Pabau will use AI to work out which products you're low on, which ones you tend to stock high, which ones you tend to stock low. And it would actually go ahead and suggest your order for you. I'm going to build this order from scratch here. And I can go in, I can choose my categories. So I might say a Abaji and Zedo. And I can go ahead and start creating my order. So it's a lot easier than it potentially was on Pabau 1. I can go and say I want 2 of these, 1 of these, place the order, saying it's good to go. I hit place order here, and that's going to go off. And then now I've got the option here to actually email that order to the supplier. Pabau 2, as it is in Pabau 1, is intelligent to know which products belong to which supplier. So if you haven't done that already, you just want to make sure that each of your products are connected to the correct supplier. And then Pabau will raise a purchase order for each supplier. So yeah, the short of it is we've made huge improvements around the product side of things. The one thing I'm really, really excited for is the way that we're doing the inventory counting now. We feel like it's going to be a lot easier. We still haven't truly mastered Botox and, injection plotting. We kind of got away there with Pabau 1. It's something that's highly complex, but we are going to be looking into that area as well. But yeah, we've made a lot of changes around stock in general.
Cool. So here's one from Manny Rodriguez. Are you planning to launch in the US?
We're doing huge work in the US, huge work. I think kind of a big driver with Pabau 2 is we wanted to make it a global product. So this kind of ties into one of the questions. I noticed someone had a question around support from 12 p.m. in the chat there. We do have plans to, particularly this year, we have a lot of clients in the US, just it's not as well supported, admittedly, as we have it in the UK. And that's something that we are changing very, very soon. I think kind of either that change has happened already or it's just around the corner. But we plan to offer more support to the US. What's great with that is it offers more support globally. because it just means that we are covering more time. So by having someone work from 5 p.m. till say 11 p.m. on more US hours, that then extends the support we have here in the UK as well. So the plan is to kind of go global with this. So we are looking, we will be looking to do more in the US. The challenges we have in the US are kind of more around the way certain features are used in the US. So like with e-prescriptions, there's more of a requirement there to go down the fax route rather than here in the UK, it's either a direct integration or paper-based. So we're looking at faxing options for the US. We're definitely looking to do more in the US this year.
Cool. And from Antonia, what improvements have you made to the loyalty program?
So unfortunately, the loyalty program is something that we have had to put on hold on Pabau 2. We don't have any plans for how that's going to work in the short term at the moment. We know that that's something that some of you guys are using in Pabau 1. We just want to make sure that we kind of get it right in Pabau 2, because the issue with loyalty is, I think in Pabau 1, there are so many different promotions you can add. And that was something that was difficult to kind of get right in Pabau 2. So we haven't kind of started the work on that yet, but we do appreciate that's something that you guys are going to want to see in Pabau 2. It's just not going to be there from day one.
Yeah, from memory, was it in the mid plan? I can't
remember. It's something that we haven't gone to design just yet, but it is something that we are exploring. We've had some feedback around the way that we do it in Pabau 1, and some different ideas around potentially doing like tiered loyalty. A bit like when you collect like your flight miles, for example, you hit bronze tier, silver tier. These are all things that we're exploring, but we don't have anything in the short-term plan for that at the moment.
Cool. Question from Heather. Will you still be offering injection plotting on the Pabau 2? The roadmap is unclear.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think that was kind of a typo there, or kind of it was just a little bit unclear on the website. So the Pabau 1 app will still work with Pabau 2. So the short answer is yes, injection will work in Pabau 2, or injection plotting. Eventually, when we do launch the new Pabau 2 app, obviously that will be rewritten and we'll replace it. The reason why there was a bit of confusion on the website is because we were referring to the desktop. And what we actually find is more people are actually using the app for plotting than they are the desktop. So it's something that we have planned for the desktop in Pabau 2. It's not going to be there from day one. But from day one, injection plotting is still there on the app, which is what most people are using it for anyway.
Cool. Just reading. I think we're getting towards the end of the Q&As now. So this might be an interesting one. So for those of us VAT registered, will Pabau 2 have the option to be able to clinical coding to differentiate between medical and non-medical treatments?
So we haven't put a tremendous amount of work into it. I think kind of with that one, it is all around kind of the VAT triggering. What triggers a treatment to be VAT registered or not, and that usually happens in the treatment note process. As you put in the treatment notes, you're answering all of those yes and no's around. How is it affecting mental health? All of these things. It's going to work in the same way as it is in Pabau 1. So I think what a lot of clients are doing there is setting up certain service categories and having individual services for VAT and non-VAT. But we would love to hear your guys' ideas on how potentially we could look at doing that differently. We haven't really thought of anything ourselves, but it'd be great to get feedback on that, on how you see that working.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'd add here is that there's some plans in the short term to really start utilizing our community site a little more, and that's community.pabau.com. And similar to how companies like HubSpot and things use it, that will soon become like right now we've got a whole list of things that we want to do with the system, right? And we're having to choose them. But over time, that community site will help give us direction as to what you guys want us to focus on. So I'd really encourage everyone who wants to, try and push development in a certain direction to get involved on community.pabau.com, register up, submit a suggestion. If your peers all vote that suggestion highly, then that's something that's going to be more likely to go on our roadmap, right? So, very much a community-led development is going to come in relatively soon?
I would say, yeah, I would say most of I think what we've done a great job on Paboo 2 right now is building a foundation. We have a really great foundation now. Yeah, we're going to have issues in the alpha. Yeah, we're going to have issues in the beta, issues in the live even. I think what the important thing is now, we have a really great foundation to grow on. So what you will see over the coming months is, I mean, the bulk of the 2 years that we've been spending on this is actually in the idea phase, going out there, getting feedback. Some of you have been really grateful, and we're really grateful for kind of the feedback that we've been getting on the community forum. And me and myself, Victor, Ollie, we read every single post on that community forum. So I think sometimes you may feel you put something on there and it's not being seen or not being replied to. We literally read every single one of them. So any ideas that you have, even good or bad, put them on the community forum. They go through a process, and kind of that's very much how we've been developing Paboo 2, I would say.
And again, you use that voting system, because that the more votes a feature gets, the more likely it is going to be to stand out to us as a priority, right? Cool. So this is a good one from David. Have you made any improvements to the newsletter section?
We have, yes. We've made huge improvements there.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this one in particular. Again, working in marketing, I'm excited for you guys to see this one.
So I'll try and show you this. Yeah, I could end up giving a two-hour demo on the newsletter. Yeah, so exactly. I'll try and give a really basic demo on this one. So we're going to go into the side here, and we're going to hit broadcasts. So the first change here is you'll be able to filter your newsletters by their status. So I can see all of my newsletters, ongoing, draft, completed, and you have this nice little indicator here. How many opened, how many clicked, and I can also go and click the reports here. And that's going to go and give me some pretty in-depth stats around the newsletter. When did people open it? How many emails were delivered, clicks, bounce, unsubscribed, etc. And then I can go ahead and preview the email in the top right there. So if I go ahead and hit create campaign here, and I hit email, and I could say, let's say that you've just moved across to Paboo 2 and you want to announce your online booking system. We could say we have launched a new online booking system. I can put that in the title and the subject here. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit design. We have some base templates. Our goal here is to add in lots more templates rather than you guys having to build these things from scratch. And we plan to do these seasonal as well. So Mother's Day coming up, we're going to drop in some Mother's Day templates there, and kind of the goal is to expand on the templates. But the one thing we have in Paboo 2 that we didn't have in Paboo 1, we could kind of do this in Paboo 1, but it was very kind of developer led. Is the ability to code your own as well. So if you have someone that has created you a custom template, you can click this option. It's a dedicated place where you can go to upload a template that a potential developer has given you. But I'm going to do a online bookings update here. So I'm going to choose this template and hit next. And that's going to take me to my newsletter designer now. So I can actually go into my designer here. I've got my template. You can see it just feels a lot more fluid as well. What I really, really like about this is something that we call special links. So if you imagine this email campaign that we're sending here, the call to action here is probably to drive them to your online booking system, right? On Paboo 1, you would be clicking on this button and adding in that link manually. What we have on Paboo 2 is this feature called special links. And you can go ahead and click on an option here, and it's going to replace the link directing the client to a particular area that you want them to within Paboo. So let's say that this was a campaign to try to get reviews. Like I know one of you asked earlier about the review system. I can change this link and I could say, okay, reviews. And what that would do is that would give a special link, which when they click it, they'll be straight away on the review system. So we've done a lot of work around the newsletter system. When it comes to selecting the audience, on Paboo 1, it was kind of, you would have to go into the report and generate it that way. I could just say, okay, send it to all clients, but only people that have opted in. Or if you wanted to go a step above, I can go ahead and click a particular filter. So I might add VIPs, for example.
Sorry, from my perspective here, this tag system and like the client segmentation is just such a great feature from a marketing perspective. You could tag a client that's done a no-show, for example, and just send a specific email to all the no-shows. Or you could tag it, as Billy says, to a VIP or someone who's maybe, had 3 appointments in the past year and you want to reward them or something. This tag and segmentation feature is really excellent.
Exactly. And then for kind of our more advanced users, you can press on client groups here, and you can actually create custom filters. So those are for your more specific campaigns. So I showed you earlier the reports. big spender report, for example. But sometimes you may want to action on that data, and that's what this client group's for. You might go ahead, go into the client section of Pabau, and you might say, okay, I'm going to create a filter, and I'm going to look for all clients who have spent over £500, all clients that have spent over £100 in retail, and they haven't visited our business for over a year. You might create that filter, save it, and then by clicking this client groups option here, it will just appear just below this section. And you can go ahead and instantly send out an email campaign to that particular set of criteria. So it's quite an advanced feature, but what I really like about it is it's easy to use. And I think sometimes when you're sending email campaigns, you just want to get something quickly out there to your clients. And this is something that's just very easy to use. And one of the other big changes we've made is not only can you instantly send a campaign, you can actually now schedule a campaign. So this is one thing that we were requested again a lot from clients is, you don't always want to just send a campaign straight away. You might say, okay, actually, every Wednesday we seem to get better traction from campaigns being sent at 8 in the morning, for example. So you can go ahead and schedule these campaigns to go out to clients. Whereas on Pabau 1, it was very much you would send it out instantly all the time.
Yeah, big improvement for me, the email stuff. I'm really excited about that one in particular. So I think this is probably the last question then. We are getting up to an hour and 20. And this is a question from Nick. If I just push this live for you. So will Pabau 2 have the ability to be customized in the back end? So, we'll be able to work with developers to customize. So essentially it's a question on how customizable will the system be for advanced users who really want to go into the depths of it.
For sure. So I think kind of with when it comes to kind of customization, mainly where people want bespoke features in Pabau is areas where it kind of communicates with your website. So often around online bookings and connect, that's where people are kind of saying, look, we want to do it in our way. We want it to look fluid with our website. The issue with around that is the complexity behind online bookings. When you think about booking an appointment, it's not necessarily just a date, a time slot, and an employee. There's all these other complexities that go around. So the actual core features, such as online bookings, those are highly customizable, but not from a developer level. And I'll just give you a glimpse of that. Can you see my screen here still, Ollie?
Yeah, still on. Yeah.
Yep. So it's important to note that all of these features that I'm kind of showing you, we do plan to run training sessions and webinars with different trainers. And one thing that's quite cool to Pabau too is if you're a more advanced user and you don't necessarily want to look at training around basic setup, you can go ahead and hit view full schedule here, and you can filter by a particular difficulty or by a particular category or trainer. And we do plan on having special guest trainers as well. So high-level doctors who are using the platform that want to come on and give a webinar on how they're using a particular feature in Pabau. But sorry, just going back to the question. Things like client portal, the product store, online bookings, these are all things that are highly customizable in Pabau 2. So on this screen here, I can go and see online bookings, how many online bookings I'm having over a period of time. And I can hit customize. And there are so many more options for customization, just not, as I mentioned, at a developer level. So those customizations will have to happen within Pabau 2. We don't have any plans to do direct work with clients. So we would never be able to develop a feature specifically for one client. The way that it's going to work on Pabau 2 is, as Ollie's mentioned, is all of the feedback and ideas are going to come from a wider community. So everyone giving suggestions on the community website. When it comes to kind of truly bespoke features that you wish to build, that's where we would be kind of leaning towards our clients using the APIs. So if you are kind of a more advanced user and you wish to kind of have certain things built, or there may be something that isn't on our roadmap that you do wish to build, you just wouldn't come directly to Pabau. You'll be able to say, okay, here's the APIs, and you would speak with the developer and they'll be able to actually build that kind of not necessarily in Pabau, but talking to and from Pabau. So I would say, whilst we don't have any bespoke plans to kind of allow kind of true customization with developers, you will be able to get a lot of that from our APIs.
Great. I think if we call it there, then I think we've answered pretty much all the questions we've been able to. I just want to say thank you to everyone for taking part in this today. It's been great to have such an active audience giving us questions and things. We had a bunch of questions that were pre-submitted that we've not been able to get to, just in case there weren't enough questions, and we've not had that problem, which is good. So I think that the plan is for us to do another one of these sessions probably in a month's time. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And again, I'd just point for a last time, just point everyone towards the Pabau 2 page on our website, especially reading about the product roadmap, what's going to be available and when. And if you feel that joining the beta program is something you'd be interested in doing, we'd very much welcome as many people who are interested.
Brilliant. Excellent. Yeah, cheers, guys. We had a real great turnout. As Ollie mentioned, I think kind of what you would start to see now is there's going to be a lot more content kind of coming out around Pabau 2. Some of you maybe jump on this call and probably didn't even know that we were doing Pabau 2. So this is it. It's out there now. We've announced it. So, we're committed to kind of doing more of these videos, and it'll be great to hear your feedback as well.
Brilliant. All right.
Excellent.
Thank you very much,
guys. Thanks a lot.
I'll see you shortly. Bye-bye.